And I think when it came to, it's not just the more serious charges, but it's the more complex charges, where the jury, in order to, for instance, find guilt on the racketeering charge, was going to have to find not just that Sean Combs had kicked his girlfriend, had beat people up, had engaged in truly abhorrent behavior, but that he ran a criminal.
We watch as Sean Diddy Combs, the architect of parties that once swallowed entire penthouse floors, now sits shackled and slumped at the defense table. Every ounce of bravado scrubbed from his face, replaced by streaks of tears and the kind of haunted stare that makes us wonder if he finally knows what it feels like to lose everything. Gone is the king of bad boy. In his place, a desperate man, watching the justice system tighten around him with the clinical certainty of a closing trap. The prosecutors don't even need to hype the moment. The image sells itself. This is what the end of invincibility looks like. We all remember the red carpets and the swagger, the sparkling juice showers and the ever-expanding legend. Now, the only cameras in his life are locked on his trembling hands as he listens to the words life sentence swirl around the courtroom like the last act of a Shakespearean tragedy.
That was mandatory. You didn't fall within one of the exceptions. What now happens when you've been convicted of two of those particular charges? That's what the judge is going to be looking at. And again, right now, considering it sounds like statements that the defense made, essentially admitting that Sean Combs is somebody who has had personal problems, but they were doing so to try and argue that he should not be found guilty.
Nobody in the gallery misses the symbolism. This is the reckoning hip-hop never thought it would see, and it's unfolding not with the brash energy of a Bad Boy Records launch, but with the slow, excruciating drip of courtroom procedure. Every fresh charge, from racketeering to conspiracy to transportation for indecent acts, lands with the weight of 20 years' secrets finally clawing their way to daylight. The FBI and federal prosecutors have built their entire case on the idea that Combs' empire, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, was always more of a shadowy kingdom than a record label. And now, as the judge refuses to grant him bail and sentences loom with real-life consequences, even the most loyal in his inner circle are cracking under the pressure. Accomplices, fixers, and assistants all watch the proceedings, with the faces of people who know the next set of shackles might have their names on it. We hear the whispers. Who will turn first? Who will Diddy sacrifice to buy a single ounce of leniency? In this new reality, alliances are as fragile as the ND as that have started to leak. But it's not just about Diddy anymore. The secret tapes, the blackmail files, and the vaults of evidence allegedly stashed away are the new currency in the courtroom drama. And in the eye of that hurricane, we find Gene Deal, the former bodyguard who once acted as Combs' personal shield against the chaos of celebrity life. Now Gene is better known as the man with the ultimate receipt. According to multiple industry sources, and his own cryptic interviews, Deal has been sitting on a collection of recordings so damaging they could take down not just Combs, but an entire generation of artists and moguls who circled those infamous parties. These are not just rumors traded in DMS, they're the kind of allegations that make Diddy's old friends flinch every time the words sealed evidence hit the news cycle.
They've been afraid of coming forward. They've been afraid of what he could potentially do to them within the industry, what he could do to them professionally, maybe even personally. And so yes, it's been a dark secret they've held on to for a very, very long time.
Gene Deal, a man who's gone from trusted enforcer to potential star witness, has been living out his own drama on the courthouse steps. After an incident that saw him allegedly punch out a YouTuber hurling insults and threatening his reputation, Deal found himself temporarily banned from the trial itself, but not before stoking public interest with sly hints about what might be on those tapes. It is disturbing. He said in one of his rare on-record quotes that he could brainwash her to the point where she's believing that she's pleasing him and all his fetishes and everything by doing some stuff that she's doing for him. Those words came just days after Cassie Ventura's explosive testimony, and the subtext was clear. This isn't just about what happened in the bedroom. It's about a whole system of control and complicity. Inside the courtroom, the circus only grows. Every time Deal ducks a question about what really went down at those freak-offs, or when his silence stretches just a little too long after being pressed about his own involvement, the gossip mill lights up. Was he an accomplice, a bystander, or another trapped player with no real power to say no? One viral TikTok shows Deal, stone-faced, refusing to answer questions about the alleged presence of minors at those parties. That face he made said it all. One commenter insisted. Another asked why certain people always jump in to protect Deal whenever the real questions start. Industry veterans are divided. Some say Deal was just another cog, forced to look the other way. Others are convinced he was a gatekeeper, a man who could have blown the whistle years earlier. Either way, every time his name trends, the sense of dread in Diddy's camp ratchets up another notch.
How many people came through his orbit? How many people could this have happened to? And how did he get away with it for so long?
Meanwhile, the stakes keep rising because Gene Deal's rumored arsenal isn't limited to party logistics or offhand pillow talk. We're told the tapes include discussions with A-listers, contracts and arrangements, confessions made in backseats and hotel elevators, possibly even the freak-off supply lists that were so meticulous they would make an event planner blush. And if those tapes ever reach the courtroom, we might be looking at a second wave of indictments that sweeps up rappers, actors, and power brokers far beyond the Combs orbit. 3 separate insiders claim at least 2 major music executives are lawyering up already, bracing for the fallout. One source, a former tour manager, puts it simply: Gene's got the kind of stuff that makes people disappear for a month just to get their stories straight. The only thing more terrifying than the threat of a life sentence for Diddy is the idea that, to save himself, he might turn on everyone he ever worked with. And while Diddy's lawyers try to spin this as government overreach, the evidence piles up with the monotony of a funeral drumbeat. Prosecutors allege that the freak-off sessions, with their days-long indulgence, heavy substance use, and elaborate logistics, were not just the eccentricities of a superstar with too much time and money. They're painting a picture of an organized criminal operation, one where every assistant, bodyguard, and personal shopper knew their role, whether it was buying supplies or cleaning up after the carnage. The government claims they've mapped out a whole shadow network, where threats, bribes, and secrecy bought silence for years. In fact, the RICO statute at the center of the case was originally written for mafia dons and mob generals. The same legal hammer that brought down Gotti is now being aimed at Combs. And the parallels aren't lost on anyone who's watched a gangster movie or two.
Referred to me as Wild King Nights. And what a Wild King Night was when him and a guest would go to a hotel room or be at his home, his bedroom, and they would have intimate gatherings. I would have to go and prep that hotel room, which consisted of baby oil, Astroglide.
This is where Cassie Ventura's testimony electrifies the air. For years, she was the silent figure in the back of party photos, the R&B singer with rumors swirling around her like perfume. But when she took the stand, the temperature in the courtroom shifted. She didn't just detail the physical and emotional trauma she says she suffered, she outlined a system. The freak-offs became a job, she told the jury, describing endless days where she was expected to perform, keep up the facade, and recover from the aftermath with little more than some pills. She spoke of being filmed, threatened, told to use aliases like Jackie Starr and Veronica Bunga to keep everything under wraps. At one point, she described footage being used as blackmail, the not-so-subtle implication being that Combs was stockpiling his own insurance policy, just in case anyone got ideas about going public. But what the world didn't know was that Cassie was building an escape plan of her own. Behind the scenes, whispers of Cassie's blackmail package grew louder as the trial pressed on. According to sources close to her legal team, she spent years saving everything: files, texts, secret voice memos, even alleged video clips that could corroborate her stories. Those files weren't just her lifeline. They became the trump card that reportedly allowed her to negotiate a safer exit from Combs' world, and maybe even convinced her to risk everything by testifying. Did she ever actually threaten to release the package? No one outside her circle can say for sure, but the simple existence of the files has forced Combs' defense to tiptoe around her every word. If there is one thing the mogul feared more than a federal indictment, it was losing control of his own narrative.
This is the flight where Diddy said to her,
showed her the video, showed her the freak-off video.
He showed her a video of a freak-off that she participated in and said, if you don't participate in another freak-off when we get to New York, I'm gonna put this video out. I'm gonna send it to your mother.
And that's coercion.
She testified to that.
If the jury
believed her,
yeah.
That's coercion.
With each day in court, the web of enablers, fixers, and one-time friends starts to unravel. Former assistants tell stories about arranging rooms under fake names like Frank Black, a wink at the notorious B.I.G.'s legendary nickname, and being ordered to make cash deliveries, source supplies, and keep their mouths shut no matter what they saw. Kid Cudi appears in the drama with his own chilling story. After a meeting gone bad, someone threw a Molotov cocktail at his car, and Cassie later confirmed she gave Diddy the address. The intimidation wasn't subtle, it was theatrical, designed to send a message to anyone thinking about crossing the king. And then, of course, there's the question of how deep this all goes. Prosecutors say they've documented more than 20 years of wrongdoing, but there are still rooms full of secrets. Each new testimony is another domino. Diddy's own lawyers, who once laughed off the idea that a music label could be a criminal syndicate, now scramble to counter mounting evidence that reads like a blueprint for organized misbehavior. The defense admits he was a very flawed individual, but insists he was no racketeer. The jury, meanwhile, sits through day after day of testimony about assistants running errands no one in a normal office would ever imagine. Bribes, arson, intimidation, all of it supposedly in service of the Combs empire. At the heart of all this, though, is the sense of betrayal, not just in Diddy's fall from grace, but in the betrayal swirling through his inner circle. Some accomplices are already talking to prosecutors, striking deals to save their own skins. Others sit in silence, weighing the cost of loyalty against the threat of a life sentence. The specter of Gene Deal's tapes looms over everyone. What happens if those recordings make it to the public, or worse, the courtroom? Who will be the next to go down with the ship? With every leak, every new revelation, the stakes grow higher and the list of potential casualties gets longer. The only certainty is that the myth of untouchability, the idea that money and fame could buy endless protection, is bleeding out in the fluorescent glare of a Brooklyn courtroom.
I thought he was this clean businessman who rise to the top because he was such a powerful and smart, educated man. I had no idea that he had this other side to him. And when I started to get exposed to his lifestyle, I started to really realize, like, this guy has an addiction. It's not just, once every few weeks, it's every day, every hour.
As the investigation cut deeper, we saw the legend of Frank Black morph from industry folklore into something darker and more dangerous. Prosecutors didn't just stumble onto Diddy's Frank Black persona by accident. This was a meticulously crafted shadow identity, a clever twist on the notorious B.I.G.'s Frank White alter ego. Under the safety of this name, Diddy allegedly booked luxury suites, moved vast sums, and coordinated every minute of those notorious freak-off weekends. There was a whole hidden ledger, according to multiple former assistants, where receipts tied to Frank Black vanished before auditors could even blink. He was the invisible hand, signing hotel ledgers, arranging for exotic dancers, moving cash in ways so ordinary they slipped beneath bank radars. One former accountant described the Frank Black system as a ghost network built to keep heat away from the real empire. And here's where it gets wild. Hotel security logs in LA, Miami, even London all reportedly showed the same Frank Black signature, even as Diddy was snapping photos at charity galas in New York. Were those freak-off supplies, the infamous baby oil, the endless bottles of premium spirits, even packets of party favors, really just for the guests? Or was this Frank Black's way of laundering money and evidence at the same time?
Look at Diddy, for instance. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at him. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at, he has videos. He has videos of the parties. Now, what I've heard, which I don't know how much of it is in mainstream media, I don't really follow the story that much, but what I've heard from friends that are attorneys, friends of mine, that have represented me before, agents and so on, is there's a bidding war going on.
We're not alone in asking how many other secrets are buried under the Frank Black alias. For years, the A-list crowd treated Diddy's double life as a private joke, a Hollywood in-joke whispered at after-parties. But as investigators drag out more booking records and subpoena hotel staff who remember the big spender with the baseball cap and no ID, the old storylines fall apart. Every swipe of a credit card under that name now looks suspicious. Every delivery sent to a penthouse suite under F. Black, now part of a sprawling federal case. Was the alias just an extra layer of security, or the final mask for a ring of crimes that stretched from LA rooftops to London nightclubs? The question haunts every headline, especially now that court documents tie the Frank Black identity to logistics for at least 3 separate freak-off weekends under federal scrutiny. The prosecution is calling it organized deception. Defense lawyers claim it's celebrity privacy, but privacy doesn't usually come with bribes, offshore wire transfers, and a private fleet of drivers all paid in cash.
Did Phil explain why he's speaking out now?
He said he's speaking out because he believes Diddy's a predator. He wants accountability, and he doesn't want someone like this to run unchecked in the future.
If the Frank Black playbook was about hiding in plain sight, the fallout among the stars is about a lot more than reputation. It's about survival. One after another, celebrities and industry regulars who once basked in the Combs afterglow now look for the nearest exit. The biggest shock came when Kid Cudi took the stand and told the jury about the night his luxury car was firebombed outside his house, allegedly because Diddy wanted to send a message after learning about Cudi's brief relationship with Cassie. According to sworn testimony, Cassie herself gave up Cudi's address, adding a layer of guilt and manipulation that even Hollywood scriptwriters would call too on the nose. This wasn't tabloid drama anymore, it was retribution, delivered in gasoline and flames, then denied, with the kind of indifference only the untouchable can muster. We have to wonder, how many other stories like this are still locked away, told only in whispered threats over late-night phone calls? Beyond the courtroom, the tremors keep spreading through music and entertainment circles. Rumors swirl about other artists, some with careers built entirely on Bad Boy's platform, who are now scrambling to protect themselves. We've seen cryptic Instagram posts and suspiciously timed vacations overseas. One Grammy-winning producer, who asked not to be named, insists he never saw anything illegal, but has retained 3 lawyers just in case. The question hangs in the air. Who else was there? Who knew about the freak-off invitations and stayed silent, worried their own names would end up in a sealed indictment or, worse, in Gene Deal's secret recordings? There are more than a few worried managers now combing through old emails and burner phone records, desperate to erase any sign they once RSVP'd to a Frank Black event. 3 separate industry publicists have already told reporters that their clients will not be commenting or were never involved. But nobody really believes those blanket denials anymore.
I was at a party at Diddy crib in LA. This was the beginning of 2020.
It's not just musicians. Some of Hollywood's most bankable actors and influencers were seen at those notorious after-parties. 2 film stars reportedly called their agents in tears the night the Diddy raid went public, terrified that years-old photos or texts could resurface. At least one major streaming platform is quietly reviewing a half-finished Diddy biopic, wondering if it will ever see the light of day. Even athletes whose endorsements once banked on Diddy's parties now dodge questions or push their own brand partnerships in a new direction. It's the kind of domino effect that makes everyone rethink their connections. For a decade, being seen with Diddy was a ticket to the inner circle. Now it's an invitation to a subpoena. And as the witness list grows, the question isn't who attended, but who participated and who enabled. The shadow of Frank Black falls over everyone. Those who built careers on Diddy's approval, former artists, stylists, personal shoppers, now find themselves in the hot seat. Even the ones who managed to avoid the direct spotlight are getting nervous. According to several insiders, the number of proffer sessions with federal prosecutors is rising, meaning more people are hoping to trade information for immunity. It's a high-stakes game of musical chairs where nobody wants to be left standing when the music stops. The lawyers are earning overtime, and friendships forged on yacht decks are dissolving in a flurry of legal strategy meetings. The panic is real and it's contagious. All it takes is one deal with the prosecutors, one name dropped in the right ear, and a whole new web of subpoenas could light up the entertainment world.
Same kind of extortion that we heard when Cassie took the stand and testified on that airplane ride back from France. Diddy said, "You don't do a freak off, I'm going to release one of the freak off videos that you are profiled in and humiliate you."
What started as a federal case about one man's secrets has now become a kind of Rorschach test for the entire industry, where these freak-off events, isolated acts of celebrity excess, or evidence of a system that protected and enriched everyone in the room. The real power of the Frank Black system was its ability to make everything look routine, just another night, another expense, another pile of cash passed under the table. But as the jury listens to stories of fake names, bribes for silence, and hotel bills paid in untraceable wire transfers, it gets harder to pretend this was just showbiz as usual. The defense might call it a lifestyle, but prosecutors call it racketeering. And so far, the paper trail is doing all the talking.
I don't know this, but it just seems very suspicious when you go through and you look at in the history of different people that can make you go away if listen, I've worried about some of the things that I talk about on my show.
There's also the question of who still has secrets to trade if Gene Deal's vault of recordings ever leaks. If the so-called ultimate betrayal comes to pass, we could see a mass exodus from the upper ranks of music, film, and sports. 3 veteran insiders swear that the real panic hasn't even started. As one put it, the threat isn't Diddy going to prison, it's who he'll take down to save himself. Every phone call, every hurried lunch with a lawyer, every off-the-record briefing is a reminder that the days of celebrity invulnerability are over. The ecosystem that protected the rich and famous has become radioactive, and nobody wants to be the next one in the crosshairs. Meanwhile, Diddy's empire, once the definition of untouchable, is unraveling at breakneck speed. The bank accounts are frozen, the private jets grounded, the invites to exclusive events quietly rescinded. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, now his home, has become a symbol, a monument to how fast the mighty can fall. We know that every high-profile trial changes the rules, but this one feels different. This is the dismantling of an era. Every new revelation pulls down another pillar of the legend, and every nervous text among former friends carries the same question: what's left to lose?
So apparently Diddy's knee has been bothering him recently, so he reported it. At some point, it was decided that he needed medical care outside of the jail, so he was taken to a Brooklyn.
As the court prepares to sentence Diddy, with the specter of life in prison looming, the speculation is reaching fever pitch. Some say he'll flip and bring the whole house of cards down. Others believe he'll stay silent, gambling on appeals or a miracle from the same system that once bent over backward for him. One thing is certain: the game has changed. No amount of NDAs, burner phones, or shadow aliases can patch the holes in this sinking ship. The fall of Frank Black is a warning to every star who ever thought they could hide behind the right name or the right party. So the only question left is, who will Diddy try to take down with him as the final curtain falls? Will the next headline be another famous face in cuffs, or a stunning new betrayal from inside his own circle? Let us know your wildest theories in the comments below, because if we've learned anything, it's that nothing in this story is off limits. Stick with us for every twist, because in a world where the truth is stranger than fiction, nobody is safe. Until next time, stay curious and don't blink, or you might just miss the next fall from grace.